Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and we are taking a look at the New York Islanders today. We got some news, new faces in new places, and the New York Islanders have added a couple of key players to their roster, some through their system in their prospects, as well as adding guys through free agency. We're going to be taking a look at that in this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and a subscribe down below. And let's take a look at the New York Islanders. Alright, so before we get too far into the video, guys, I want to give a quick plug to our Instagram and Twitter handles at goalline_hockey. Links will be in the description down below. Make sure to check those out. Alright, so with that out of the way, guys, new faces coming to the New York Islanders this season means a new opportunity. The New York Islanders in 2020 had a pretty solid season. They beat the Florida Panthers in the qualification round, beat the Washington Capitals, Philadelphia Flyers, and unfortunately lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning. They eventually became the Stanley Cup champions in 2020. The New York Islanders are destined for another strong run, and a lot of people have them, on the outside looking in, missing the playoffs to teams like Pittsburgh, Boston, and you know what? Maybe there's an argument to be made for that, looking at the Islanders on paper. But if you've known anything about the New York Islanders and going off of them off of paper, the last two seasons, you haven't learned your lesson. So we'll see what happens with the Islanders. Now, looking at some of their additions, they add a couple of notable guys, which we'll be talking about up front, but we're also going to be looking at some of the depth guys. Dimitro Timmyshaw being one of them. 24-year-old, he played with the Detroit Red Wings and the Maple Leafs last season. I believe he only put up 9 points in like 40 games with the Leafs last year. And he didn't do too much with the Red Wings when Steve Yzerman picked him up off waivers. So, kind of a depth piece. The Islanders signed him to a short, a 1-year, $700K deal. Nothing too crazy. But again, it's more of just he's on the roster. It's another roster spot. He's going to be on the taxi squad at some point. So we'll see what happens with Timmyshaw, but a depth piece. And again, this is a guy that Lou Lamoriello had back in his time with Toronto, so he has a little bit of experience with Timmyshaw. So not a total surprise that Lou picked him up. Jakob Scarak, 21 years old, a former draft pick of the New York Islanders. He played with Peloton and Heinola this season. His numbers were awful. He's the third goaltender for the Islanders, the goaltender on the taxi squad. He put up an .830 save percentage, yikes, and a .444 goals against average over in Europe. So Jakob Scarak did not do so well. I don't know about that team Peloton, how good they are in that league, but I don't know. Not a good look for Jakob Scarak. Austin Zarnick, the New York Islanders picked up in free agency, signed him to a 1-year deal. He's 28 years old. He played with the Stockton of the AHL last season, and he was above a point per game, putting up 33 points in 32 games last season in Stockton. A depth piece. I think he's a good player. I remember his time in Boston. He was a pretty solid bottom six player. So if the Islanders can get any bit of that in the bottom six this season from him, they'll be quite happy. Kind of a gritty power forward guy in the bottom six, a little bit of a pest, and he can score some goals. So he adds a little flair of offense. And he played with the Calgary Flames at points last season as well. Just things didn't work out in Calgary. He comes back to the island. He comes to the island now, coming back to the East Coast. We'll see how Zarnick does with the Islanders. Speaking of that other guy that's probably filling out that same spot on the taxi squad, but also looking to maybe fight for a spot in the bottom six, is Otto Koivula, the big forward that the New York Islanders selected a couple years back. He's 22 years old, HIFK Helsinki, SM Liga this season. He has put up 11 points in 14 games, so he's one of those guys who's been playing overseas through the end of 2020. And again, 11 points in 14 games, not too bad. He's been playing with the Bridgeport Sound Tigers. I've seen Koivula play. He's a good player. He's, again, a typical Lou Lamoriello player. He's a big guy. He's not afraid to get in front of the net. He kind of reminds me of Anders Lee, but a center. And I think that's really what you're seeing out of Otto Koivula, just a big center. honestly reminds me a lot of Quentin Byfield. That same kind of game, but his foot speed is a bit of an issue when you're one of those bigger guys. Unfortunately, sometimes the legs don't develop as quickly, and in today's NHL speed game, that's probably one of the most important facets of your game. So the skating and speed has to pick up for Koivula, but besides that, a pretty good penalty-killing, agitating center that the Islanders could use in their depth at points this season. Kiefer Bellows, former first-round pick. Yes, he does have a father that's pretty well known in the NHL. So Kiefer Bellows, 22 years old, spent last season with the Bridgeport Sound Tigers, put up 31 points in 52 games last season in Bridgeport. A pretty solid player. He's getting older, though. He's 22 years old. He should be making this Islanders roster. Obviously, Barry Trotz had a lot of good things to say about him in training camp, but we'll see what happens. Again, he's a former, I believe he was 15th overall. The expectations are high for Kiefer Bellows. Is he going to become another Michael Dal-Cole player where he's projected to be a good top 6 scorer and it just dries off and he becomes a bottom 6 player? That could happen here with Kiefer Bellows. We'll see what happens. Maybe he becomes a middle 6 guy. So we'll see what happens with Kiefer Bellows. But again, he's showing in the AHL he does have that potential to score goals. And he did a lot of that last season. One of the leaders for the Sound Tigers in goals. Oliver Wallstrom, again, another former first-round pick. Oliver Wahlstrom, 20 years old, and in this season here, in the AIK, in the Swedish 1 League, put up 8 points in 10 games this season. He did get injured in Europe, so that may have been holding him back just a little bit going into this year, but he's still a really solid player, and the New York Islanders are expecting him to be an important player starting the season on the third line. So we'll see what happens with Oliver Wahlstrom. He's going to be one of those guys vying for those spots in the bottom 6. He's already taken out a guy like Leo Komarov, so we'll see what Oliver Wahlstrom does. He's projected to be a top 6 scoring winger, so we'll see if the former BC guy gets into the Islanders roster and becomes a predominant piece for the Islanders moving forward. And now the top addition for the New York Islanders was a former 3rd or 4th round draft pick goaltender, Ilya Sorokin. He's 25 years old. He's been playing with the CSKA Moscow and putting up video game-like numbers. That's the best thing I could say about Sorokin. .935 save percentage, a 150 goals against average last season. Some of his best numbers, he put up like a 105 goals against average and a .945 save percentage. So he has been putting up some unreal numbers over in Russia. He comes to the United States. He's had winning pedigree with CSKA Moscow, winning championships, one of the grand franchises in the KHL. This guy is legit. And the New York Islanders, if this guy, under the Mitch Korn and all the Islanders coaches that they have right now, Sorokin is going to be a superstar for the Islanders. So we'll see what happens. I think he's a little bit of an underrated name across the NHL, but in the Islanders fan base, there's been a lot of hype around Sorokin. Can he live up to that? We'll have to wait and see. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you think the Islanders have the potential to do what they did last season, go to the conference finals and potentially win that Stanley Cup? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, you guys know what to do. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching, and let's go Islanders!